everyone. I can still vividly remember when I could finally do all the activities I wanted to again, including things like blow drying my hair. I mean, who knew that that would become the gold standard of recovery? Today's guest, the incredible Alisha Braswell, also treasures that moment when her long COVID nightmare ended and she could finally run, hike, and tend to her garden once again. Hi, everyone. I'm Raelan. If you're new here, welcome. Each week, I chat with people who've recovered from conditions like long COVID and ME/CFS. And after speaking with over 180 people and counting, it's both exciting and rewarding to see how patterns of recovery are emerging, kind of like we're all piecing together a global puzzle. Today, I'm so thrilled to introduce Alisha. She's joining us over in North Carolina. After getting COVID, Alisha pushed through things like heart palpitations, extreme fatigue, and panic attacks for over a year, only to get COVID again. And this time it led to a year and a half of being completely couch-bound and non-functional until she discovered something that told her body, like, hey, it's okay to come out again. She's here to share her experience with what helped her on her journey back to health. Let's welcome Alisha and dive in. Alisha, wonderful to have you here today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so many nuanced things with your journey, so things that we don't talk about a lot here in the space. So excited to dive into all of this. So it's always challenging to figure out where to start. I'll let you decide, but take us back. Where and how does your journey with all of this begin?
All right. I think I'll just note and start with that I was a very healthy, active person before this healing journey. I worked on a organic vegetable farm, active job for 8 years before the journey. Runner, yoga, all of that stuff. And I would say my healing journey really started, I guess, actually, the stress started in 2019. In 2019, I moved. I got out of a long-term relationship, changed jobs, new place to live, all of that. And that's kind of just when, stress started to accumulate that I was unaware of. And so for a few years, I just had some stressful life situations. And then in 2021, I moved in again to a new place and got COVID immediately after I moved in. And that was just stressful. And I was pretty sick. I was sick for about a month. And then that's when I started to just not feel like myself. So after that time, I went back to work like normal. I worked at 2 farms outside the whole summer, but I started to experience fatigue a lot more than I ever had before. I started to experience heart palpitations and just a higher heart rate, and I started to really experience anxiety and fear. And I just really didn't know why, and I didn't know what was wrong. So I did go to a doctor and got regular blood work done, and everything was normal. So I really just kind of felt like I was crazy, and I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. And on the outside, it appeared that I was fine. And then I also experienced panic attacks that summer for the first time ever. So then that fall, I got COVID again. And then that is what really started my life on the couch for a year and a half, I would say. I was very sick this second time getting COVID, and really my body just felt like it shut down, like it just turned off. And for about a month, I was pretty sick at home, and then realized I needed to get some help. So I went to a functional medicine doctor, was the first doctor, and got lots of blood work done, saliva tests, a lot of things, and nothing serious came back. There was some things that were off, a little bit of hormone imbalance, but but nothing serious. And so that is when I was diagnosed with long COVID and Lyme's disease. And through that journey, it felt very confusing because the doctor really didn't know what the answer was, but he put me on lots of supplements. So I started the supplement routine at that point, probably 15 bottles of supplements to, I guess the purpose was to regulate things. I honestly don't know what the purpose of it was. But that doctor was a bit stressful, and it was very confusing knowing if my symptoms were from Lyme's or from long COVID. And so it was like this mystery of which one to treat. And so then he told me to go to another doctor, sorry. He referred me to a Lyme specialist, which I do live in the rural mountains, and it's pretty hard to find doctors in this area in general. And so the Lyme specialist he referred me to would not take me because she said I had too many symptoms. So that was also just stressful and confusing. So just, kind of compiling on stress and fear of not knowing. And so then I ended up going with another practitioner who used muscle testing to find out what my body needed. And she told me that I needed to detox from parasites, mold, and heavy metals, and Epstein-Barr, and just a lot of environmental toxins. So that started my regimen of a long detox program, which I did for a whole year.
Okay, so hold on. So right now you've been diagnosed with long COVID, Lyme disease, parasites, mold, heavy metals. How are you even, what were you thinking in this moment? That just seems like a lot of things all at one time. What was your reaction to that?
Yes, that's a good question. I was very overwhelmed and confused, especially because um, I live a very, very healthy lifestyle. So it was very confusing. Like, how is my body riddled with all of these toxins and bad things when I eat well, I do all of the right things? So definitely confusion and overwhelm. And I guess those are the two main reactions. And so I kind of went into it at first with, okay, I'm going to do this detox program and get all this stuff out of me so I'll be healthy again. And that was the mindset at first. So I guess part of the time I felt, excited because it's like, this is it. All I need to do is get these things out. But after so long of like attacking or cleansing, I started to feel confused of why I wasn't really healing. So yes.
Wow. So a year of detoxing. I'm very curious because I went through a lot of detoxing and that was a big part of my initial approach to recovery. So what did that look like for you? What was that regimen like?
Yes, it was a lot of supplements, and it would kind of move from like we're going to cleanse from parasites right now, and we would like do lots of parasite supplements along with binders and other supports of like vitamins. So it was kind of like we're taking all this stuff out, and then we're also going to add good supplements to, you know, because my body was losing. I mean, when you take that stuff, you are actually like detoxing something a lot. So it was also kind of like so many supplements because I was also adding, to what I was losing at the same time. So I did a lot of parasite cleansing and then we focused on mold for a little bit of the time, and then we focused on heavy metals for a little bit of the time, and I made some changes to my diet. I didn't go crazy with that, but I did stop eating things that generally have high heavy metal content. And I also tested my house for mold, and we cleaned that was a stressful time too, of cleaning my whole house, cleaning every single thing that is in our house because there could be mold on it. So yes, a lot of
Oh my
precautionary
goodness.
measures.
You speak about it so calmly, but it sounds like I can only imagine how overwhelming and stressful this must have been to go through. You're not feeling well. You're trying to tackle these 8 different things and juggling all these protocols. And were you starting to see progress from any of them? Did you start to at all feel better?
No, honestly, no. I guess I had moments because I wanted to feel better, like maybe this is it, maybe today,
Yeah.
but really, no. I was stressed and overwhelmed and did not feel better from that. I'm not saying that anyone should never do any type of detox, but all of that extreme was not the answer and did not make me feel better.
Yeah, it's tough because you want to be optimistic and follow through on things and have hope in the things that you're doing, but then I'd also remind myself, the expression, if you're riding a horse and it dies, get off. Like sometimes you just have to admit that things aren't working, or the whole, IT approach slogan or innovation of like fail fast. Like it's a challenging thing because you don't want to give up on things and you really want to believe in it, but also at some point you just have to be honest with yourself, and it sucks to be like, I don't think this is my path. I don't think this is getting me out of this. And then what? Once you admit that, you're like, well, I don't plan B. So what did you do once you started to realize that I don't think this is getting me where I'm trying to go?
Yes, that's very true. And one point to that is that, it was so stressful looking for doctors and trying to figure out who had the right answer. And when I found this particular practitioner, I will say that she was very kind and loving and supportive. And she told me that I could heal. And that is a big piece of why I stayed with her. And it was supportive in knowing that someone told me I could heal. I'm very thankful for that. and and then it's also helpful to not be constantly searching, even though that whole process was stressful in itself. And I guess I was in a way searching to figure out which thing I should be killing in my body. But I did stay with her for so long because I didn't want to keep searching, because that whole process is stressful. Um, but so I would say that the turning point was last August, so August 2023. I was very sad and depressed, and I needed to find a recovery story. And I found you for the first time. You were the first recovery story that I heard. And I've really related with all of my symptoms to the chronic fatigue syndrome, even though it was a different diagnosis. And also, around the time that I found you, someone for the first time had said the word that to me, chronic illness. And they said, just kind of in passing, like, oh, because you're chronically ill. And that was so devastating that someone told me that. I didn't really believe that yet. I think I had been sick for 6 months, maybe 6 to 8 months. And I forget the definition of chronic is only maybe 3 weeks or 3 months. But, anyways, when someone said that to me, I was very devastated. And the word chronic makes you feel like it's going to be forever. And so I needed to find a recovery story. And so I found you and I started listening to other recovery stories, which were so helpful. And then I listened to the interview that you had with Dan Buglio. And that then I started listening to Dan's channel. And so that is when I found TMS training and mind body work. I found Rebecca Tolan. I started doing her somatic tracking meditations every day. I read Dr. Sarno's book, The Mind Body Prescription, and really delved into the mind body stuff. But I would say at the same time, I stayed with the detox program. So I would say for the journey of healing, once I found you and Dan Buglio was 1 year. And I would say what healed me is the mind body work. But for the first half of that, I continued the detox program because I was, confused which one is right. And um, so, yes. And so back to the interview you had with Dan Buglio, he said something about people with chronic fatigue syndrome being able to walk 18 minutes, but not being able to walk 19 minutes, something like that. And it just really got my attention and was so interesting. And at that point, I was doing nothing. Like cooking my food was my task of the day. But I did have spots where like I could walk to my shed and kind of feel okay. But then if I walked down to my car, that was no. I felt like death. So the way he said that really clicked for me. Like, wow, that's interesting. And so I took his test on his website, which asks you questions to see if your symptoms are TMS. And it was a yes. And so it took me a long time to believe and start that journey, but it really got my attention because also I will say through my journey, I did start to journal, meditate. It was very much like a spiritual inner working journey. And all of those things are super wonderful and important in my healing journey, although none of those specific things are what healed me. I'm very grateful for all of the emotional work I did. Just because it was, that's healing in itself. But once I found Dan, I also started to integrate feelings of safety. So I started to, find joy in life. I really slowly started to do things again. And really, the somatic tracking helped me a lot. So when I was really sick, I guess I can say my symptoms, uh, if that's okay.
That's okay.
Which is, what I had to observe with the somatic tracking. But, I had like chronic extreme fatigue was the top thing. But I had body sensations of burning, lightheadedness, dizziness, tingling, and a lot of stomach stuff. I had constipation and bloating, and eating was very hard for me. Just eating anything. There wasn't like specific restrictions, just eating a meal made me feel awful. So that is where I started with the somatic tracking. I would eat and then do Rebecca Toland's 10-minute guided meditation. And it's really just, starts off with calming, and then she asks you to just notice what sensation is going on in your body. And she states that it's safe to feel that sensation. And it was really hard at first, but that really helped. I mean, I did that for 9 months probably after I ate a meal. And so that was a big piece of my journey also.
So, if you were to, looking back now with all of your insights and understanding and time to reflect on your journey, what do you think are the biggest things, the most impactful things that helped you with your recovery?
I would say starting to learn that I'm not broken. So, shifting from fixing to not fixing, just knowing that my body knows what to do and that my body is healthy. I mean, that's a huge mind shift when you're in this, chronic illness state. So switching my mindset to that I'm healthy and not broken was huge. And really finding anything calming through my day. Another piece of my journey is that I became a Reiki practitioner. And so, one, that was helpful because I thought it was really interesting and I loved the classes, and so I was engaging in something besides my illness and shifting, my focus to something else that was interesting was huge. And then the actual Reiki practice of just self Reiki with like calming music really helped to calm my nervous system. So really, anything that calms your nervous system is huge. So that, along with starting to observe my sensations or symptoms just as sensations, and starting to just say like, oh, that burning is happening, okay, and then either moving on or focusing on something else rather than focusing on the sensations and symptoms. And then, as I started to slowly come back into life using all of those tools, I mean, really all day, and, starting to do something again, like see a friend, or I started with a garden and like really started so slow with my garden. And that was really healing. And so I would, garden, maybe sensations would come up, but just noticing them and knowing that I was still safe was very huge.
I imagine this was a not a small shift in thinking for you, coming from one extreme of you have these 11 things wrong in your body, these broken things that you need to fix, to nothing's broken, you're safe, you're okay. Did it take a while for you to make that shift
Yes.
in belief and understanding? Yeah, I would
Yes, it
imagine.
did. It's so easy to say now that
Yeah.
I feel totally recovered, but I mean, it was a lot of baby steps and a lot of slow integration, and really listening to other recovery stories, mostly through Dan Buglio's channel, because that is specifically TMS stories, and that is what really helped me to heal. And so I would also say a balance was good for me, because, I would do somatic tracking every day. But then, you know, shifting to, doing other things that bring joy really helps the mind shift from all of the focus on the sensations to joy again and happiness. But really listening to recovery stories really helped me to believe, but I would listen to one or two and go a few weeks integrating everything. And then I would start to doubt again. And then I would listen to another story, or, read another book about it, or anything having to do with TMS work. And then I would feel good. And then so just very slow integration. And it's a huge mind shift, and it's really unbelievable. It's kind of like magic.
Yeah, it's a brand new way of thinking for most of us, that many of us are first introduced to this whole world of, symptoms, how they're generated, the science behind it once we're in it, and trying to undo a lifetime of being told other messages that are completely contradictory to that, or very much opposing to it. So
Yes,
yeah, you can see why a lot of people are struggling to see that this could be what's happening for them, or to even be open to the possibility, because it's a dramatic change in understanding.
it is.
Yeah.
And I will say it's helpful um, when if you're first starting to make that shift in your mind, to just notice like the very small things, like I enjoy crafting. And so, I would start to craft, and then, I would forget about how my symptoms, maybe not forget, maybe is not the right word, but I felt
Mm.
fine while I was crafting. And so that's just a little bit of proof that I was okay. And so you just have to keep slowly doing those things to prove to yourself that you are okay.
Yeah, someone said recently that they said, when things come up, they say, "Oh, that's fishy." And I love that term, because it's just simple and light and kind of to me hits the nail on the head of like, I can walk 18 minutes, but not 19 minutes. Like, that's fishy. Okay, I can
Mhm.
feel okay crocheting, but not doing the dishes, for example. Or, like one woman I talked to said, I feel okay walking on this side of the door of my house, but not on that side of the door. Like all these
Mhm.
things, like, okay, wait a minute, something's fishy here. So, yeah, I think that's a really good way just to start. It's just at least being open minded to considering, what is really happening here with,
Mhm.
with what's going on with me. Yeah.
Yes, I like to say that's interesting. I would just
Yeah.
notice the sensation
Yeah.
and say, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one too. So you are now doing work to support other people who are facing these sorts of conditions. So tell us about that.
Yes. Now I have a wellness business. It's online and it's called Vibrant Energy Healing. I offer wellness coaching to support anyone going through a chronic illness or anyone that's, simply overwhelmed or experiencing symptoms. And then I also offer Reiki.
That is absolutely incredible. And this, of course, is linked in the description. You can see Alicia's website and everything you need to know to learn more and get in contact with her. So incredible because, as we all know, there is such a need for this type of support in the world. And for far too long, far too many of us, we're trying to figure this out completely on our own and feeling so alone and hopeless and isolated. So I just really encourage people listening, watching to check out what Alisha has available. The more support you have, the better. She's been through it. She gets it. She's clearly a kind, beautiful, wonderful person. So yeah, just very excited that you are doing this work and out here now helping people with what you've learned from all that you've been through.
Thank you. It's exciting. I mean, that's the only thing I want to do now is help others to heal.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you've been through it and you can see the other side and you know that there are paths out of this, I hear you. Yeah, and for people listening, watching, I did interview Dad Boogly on the channel, like she mentioned, so I'll link that one here as well. He shares a lot of really great stuff. So, yeah, thank you so much, Alisha, for taking the time to speak with me, with my audience here today. And yeah, I really appreciate you and so happy for where you are now and all that you've been through and you've come through the other side in this great place. And yeah, just thank you so much for all that you do.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me on your channel.
All right, and people listening, watching, hope to see you in that interview with Dan Buglio. It's a good one. He's a great guy. A lot of great information out there. And of course, Alicia's website. And we'll link some of also Dr. John Sarno's books that she mentioned in the description as well, if you want to check that out and learn more. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.